Creating animation like this is really easy if you know where to begin. Hi, my name is Kat and I'm a motion graphics artist. Today I'm going to be talking about cutting up your art to turn it into animation. First, determine where your art's coming from. Is this something you're creating yourself, drawing yourself, or is this a friend's piece, or is it a fan piece? The process is the same either way, but there are some differences if you're creating it yourself that could make the process a little bit easier. Essentially what you need to do is cut up your art piece based on what pieces you want to move. So for example, I have a lizard here and I want the head to move, so I'm going to have a layer for the head. I want the arm to move, so there's going to be a layer for the arm, a layer for the body beneath those, and then a layer for the tail. What you could do is you can draw all of these assets individually on their own layers, so a layer for the head, a layer for the neck, a layer for the arm. This is what I used to do, but honestly, I just prefer drawing the whole thing by itself and then cutting it up. The reason is when you're drawing a character, a semi-realistic character, you're going to have several different layers for different things anyway. So there's going to be a line art layer, there's going to be a base color layer, a shading layer, lighting layer, and stuff like that. And if you need to do that for each individual body part, it can get ridiculously cluttered. So now what I do is I begin to separate my drawing based on what characters are in the scene. So the full drawing is a lizard on this girl's shoulder, and what I would have done if I wasn't planning on animating this is I would not have drawn or colored the area beneath the lizard, but to keep things easier when I'm cutting it up, I drew the entire body of the girl in case the lizard moved above that area. So if I didn't do that and say I tilted the lizard's head up, you wouldn't see the details or the finer details underneath the neck if I drew just one flat color underneath that. So I put in the extra details underneath as one full image. Which leads into the next part, where are you going to cut up your image? There are two ways to do it. You can do it in After Effects itself. You can take the entire flat image and then you can cut it up by using Mask in that program, or you can cut it up in the art program itself and start separating it based on the limbs and such. I decide what program I use to cut it up based on what kind of drawing I'm doing. So for example, if I'm creating something more cartoony with hard shading and not soft shading, something less realistic, After Effects is really good because you can use Mask to cut out the individual limbs, and beneath the limbs where the empty spaces are, there's actually a drawing option where you can just fill in the additional color. For drawings that are more realistic or semi-realistic or use soft shading, I like to cut them up in the art program itself and export each individual layer because you have more control with the types of brushes in an actual art program. While you're working on your drawing, start to think about how exactly you want to animate it. What parts are going to be moving? Do you want your character to blink? Do you want her ears to twitch? Do you want the hair to blow in the wind? Thinking about these sort of things can help you decide how exactly you want to cut up your art piece once you're finished with it for animation. So you want your head to move, you'd cut out the head. You want the ears to twitch, you'd cut out the ears. So there's a layer for the head, there's a layer for the ears. Also think about how realistic and complex you want your animation to be, especially when it comes to hair. So if I wanted it to be more realistic, I would cut out basically every individual strand of hair. So you can see on her bangs there's about 4 strands there. I didn't want to put that much effort into it, so I cut the bangs out, I cut the left strand out, I cut the right strand out, and later I cut out the back hair, so I ended up having 4 layers for the hair. The style I'm using here is a little bit more cartoony than realistic, so I'm okay with just doing less strands. That being said, even if it is a 2D image that's super cartoony, if there are a lot of strands, individual strands that are very characteristic, so you know, those anime boy tufts that come out at the top of the head, I'd cut those out and animate those individually because it would look a lot better if there wasn't a static piece of hair just sticking out of the top of the head. So excluding shading, line art, and lighting layers, there are essentially 3 main components to this image. There's the background, there's the main character, and then there's her animal companion. When you're finished with the entire drawing, you're going to merge the line art, shading, lighting into each individual section. So one for the lizard, one for the girl, and then you're going to start breaking up based on character. Here we go. Take your character and copy and paste it into a new layer so you always have one base full image to work off, and start breaking it up based on sections. So take your base layer, copy and paste, and then on the new layer, cut out the head. Then take your base layer, copy and paste, and on the new layer, cut out a piece of hair. And then take your base layer, and so on and so on. I made a little layer for just reference, so I knew exactly what to cut out in case I forgot a section, so I listed out everything I needed and I crossed them off as I went. Here I am working on the head. We're going to take off the bangs because we want her bangs to move, and we're going to basically fill in the area of her skin where the bangs are not. So when her bangs actually move, you're not going to see the bang layer underneath, you're going to see her forehead. You could just draw over it with the color you're using and just paint like you normally would, but there's a tool that I really like to use to drag out the colors you're already using to fill in that empty space. In Clip Studio Paint, it's called Fingertip. It's underneath the smudge tool icon, and basically what it is it takes the information of what you're clicking on and you drag it up and it fills in the rest. When I do blinking animation, I like to create a whole new layer for the closed eyelids, as well as a layer for eyelashes, which I'll probably show in a later tutorial because we're just talking about cutting it up right now. But add a layer for our eyelids, add a layer for eyelashes. Lastly, do not forget to name your layers. If you have an arm, you want it to be named arm so you don't mix it up with anything else, otherwise you'll get very confused when you're organizing in After Effects. Also, if you have 2 different characters, usually what I do is for, say, the lizard, I would put L in an arm so I know it's the lizard's arm. If you start animating and you realize that there's a mistake in one of your drawing layers, so say you're animating and you realize there's some weird drawing mistake on the head, all you have to do is go back into your drawing program, fix that mistake, and export it with the exact same name you used before. So if it's called head, make sure the exported file is also called head. It'll ask you if you want to replace that image with your new image. Just say yes, and After Effects will automatically replace it in the program. So all the animation you already did is still going to be there, it's still going to be applied, only the new image is going to be there instead of the old one. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments, and if there are any more animation tutorials you want to see like this, just let me know.